Welcome, useful content community. Many companies think about marketing, but they seldom think about how they market to themselves. And if you don't know what internal marketing is, or you just want to learn more about it, you'll want to stick around because this week we are honored to have with us content creator, host of the Internal Marketing Podcast, and Group Chief Marketing Officer of the JMMB Group, Kerry-Ann Stimpson, with us.
Broadcasting live from Relate Studios in Trinidad and Tobago, it's the Useful Content Creation Show with your host, Juma Bannister.
This is a Useful Content Creation Show where business owners and entrepreneurs come to improve the content they create by educating themselves with useful strategies and tactics in marketing, business, and content creation. And we are the Useful Content community. For those in the comments, it's good to have you. And remember that we own the bulb emoji, so you can throw your bulbs up. And don't forget to put your hashtag UCC Live. And if you're here on the replay, put your hashtag UCC Replay. And for those in my Facebook group, the Useful Content Community, which is 150 strong about now, you can put your Learn with UCC because we're here to learn really useful things. And today, I'm happy to introduce our guest who is going to show us useful things about internal marketing. Welcome to the show, Kerry-Ann.
Hey, Juma, thank you so much for having me. And I'm envious that you are in my second favorite Caribbean country.
Second favorite.
I haven't been there since before COVID. I miss Trinidad and Tobago. But hey, I'm glad to be connecting with you. Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. It's great to have you, a fellow wearer of red. I love that.
Favorite color.
So there, you see, we have that one thing in common thus far, and I'm sure we'll find many more along the journey of the show.
Absolutely.
But it's really, really great to have you. I was just looking at your content and looking at the things you've been posting and seeing how focused it is, and really just trying to get in there and engaging with your content a bit. And then I sent you that message about the other podcast I was doing about employee influencers. And, so thank goodness you said yes, and now you're here, which is great.
Absolutely. Had to say yes. Thanks for having me. And hey, everybody who is watching live and on the replay, looking forward to engaging with everybody.
Well, talking about the community, so we have Celine here throwing her bulbs up. Hi, Celine. Great to see you.
Celine.
We have Yolanda throwing her bulbs up as well. That's how we do it on this side of the internet. We have Chelsea coming in from Belize. Great to see you, Chelsea.
Hey, Chelsea.
And of course, Yolanda has to put her UCC Live. Great to see your UCC Live, right. Yolanda. Great to see you. All right. So for people who may not know who you are, could you please tell us a bit about yourself and how you started your content journey?
Sure. Well, wow. Okay, so let me keep that tight. So I'm Kerry-Ann, of course, Stimpson, and as you probably picked up by my accent, I'm Jamaican, born, bred, raised, living, working for quite some time. I did my MBA at the University of Maryland, College Park in the States for a couple of years, so I lived away for that time. But other than that, I've been right here in Jamaica. I have been the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of JMMB financial group of companies headquartered in Kingston, Jamaica, but we have operations across the Caribbean, including the Dominican Republic and Trinidad and Tobago. So I get to go to Trinidad and Tobago often enough as part of work as well. And a few years ago, I would say about maybe 3 years ago, right before the pandemic, there was just something in me that said, I've been a marketer all these years. How can I give back to the community? There have been so many experiences and nuggets and things that I would have gathered over time that I said, hey, let me find a way to give back. But I wanted to do it methodically. I joined a great program and wanted to look at what are the conversations that not enough marketers and business leaders were having. Long story short, got introduced to the concept of internal marketing, wanted to dig into that more, thought of how to do that. I love conversations. For those of us who are Strength Finder 2.0 people, intellection is one of my strengths. I love having great conversations, and podcasting came into my space, did a course, learned how to do it, overcame some imposter syndrome, took up a mic, and the rest is history. And LinkedIn has been a key part of that journey as well.
Yeah, that's an amazing compression of all of these years of stuff that's happened. You just compressed
Yeah.
it down to a couple of minutes. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I heard you say that before, that you were considering doing blog posts, and then because of the intellection outcome of the test, you decided, oh, let me have these conversations, and that's what
Yeah.
drove you to do it in that particular format. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially because when I did my research, there were no other internal marketing podcasts around, no podcasts focused on internal marketing. You could have picked up probably some podcasts that may have done an episode or two, but none with that focus. And I said, hey, here's a unique opportunity for me to go into a space that not many people, if any, were occupying at all, and started to have the conversations. And it's been a great journey ever since.
Yeah. And your content, it does focus on internal marketing and marketing things, but you also share some personal content. So that you share the journey from straighten to natural hair, getting your braces and getting them off earlier this year,
Yes,
and
jaw
your
surgery.
your surgery as well,
Yeah,
and your masters, a fair bit of personal content. Why is it important to you to share that type of content?
Because I also felt that that was part of the journey. Again, recognizing that I'd reached a stage in my life and in my career where I said I've benefited from so many other people who have poured into me with their stories of their journeys and experiences. It almost struck me as selfish that I didn't do the same. And I said, yeah, let me put myself out there again. Not the easiest thing at first, but the response that I've gotten and recognizing the impact that it has had on some people's lives to hear my story. And if I'm even helping one or two people, I'm good with that. And so, yeah, if there's an experience that I can share to help someone else, that's been my motivation. And it's been good, very, very good.
Yeah, it's even impacted me, because I have been putting off this braces things for many years, and I'm probably going to do it. I commented that in your post, that one. Yes, I know.
Yay!
I'm probably going to do it sometime soon. I don't know, the kids and I, we may get it around the same time. Who knows?
Hey, no big deal. You're good. Anytime's the right time.
Get a 2-for-1.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. All right, so now that people know you a little better, let's talk about some of the things we came to talk about, specifically internal marketing. But before we get into that, let me ask you the big question I ask everyone who comes on to the show: what makes your content useful?
So what makes my content useful is that it really comes from a place of recognizing that while everyone is so busy focusing on making our customers happy, engaging our customers in how great our brand is, how great our products or services are, we can't neglect the role that our employees play in delivering on that brand promise and growing the organization, and just quite frankly building the brand as well, which is part of the topic of what we're going to be discussing here. And my content helps to kind of spin that around and always help people to remember that it's your people that's going to make the difference for you. I mean, you can put all the sexy marketing messages out there. If when your customer comes in, what you say in your marketing collateral doesn't connect to what your employees are giving to them, the promise that they're delivering on, that brand promise that you say you're going to deliver on, then that's going to be a problem. So my content is always about helping people to remember what's happening on the inside. What does that engagement and empowerment look like, and whether or not it lines up with what you're saying on the outside. So that for me is what's going to make the difference, and that's a message I try to share as often as I can.
Yeah, and that is so true. There is sometimes massive misalignments between the marketing materials or who the company says they are and then the people who you actually interface with on the ground. Sometimes there's massive misalignment. And for me, that is always a shock. It's always a shock when I walk into a place and they talk about these values in their messaging, and then you actually interface with, and sometimes it's a CSR, somebody on the lowest level, or maybe it's somebody in the car park, or somebody else who a normal person would interface with, and then there's a massive misalignment, and you walk away feeling cheated or deceived because the thing did not match, and that's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Jared. All my favorite Trinies in the house. I love it.
Jared is saying hello to
Hey,
Kerry-Ann.
Jared.
And yes, employee-centric. And yes, her content is awesome. And Summer is coming in from Austin, Texas in the house, throwing her balls up. And Keneal, where's Keneal? Keneal is in Mandeville, I think. Keneal, where are you from? Just remind me where you're from.
Hey, Keneal. I love Mandeville. Love Mandeville. Nice and cool up there. When we're sweating in Kingston, Mandeville is quite all right.
Right. I think that is where Keneal is from. He can correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since he's told me where he's from. I know obviously he's from Jamaica.
Right.
So yeah. So let's talk about internal marketing some more. So can you tell the people what is internal marketing?
Great. So I'd love to address that in two parts, right? Because I find some people when they hear internal marketing, they kind of mix it up with internal comms.
Yes.
And there are similarities, but there's also one key difference. So the working definition I like to give about what internal marketing is that it is the process of engaging and empowering employees to help build the company brand and to drive growth, right? So when you think of the internal comms component, which there is a lot of that involved in the overall internal marketing kind of framework, right? So you're talking about educating your employees about your products and services. You're talking about ingraining them in the culture of the organization. What's the brand promise? What do we stand for? What's our purpose, our mission, our vision as an organization? You're talking about engaging employees in that conversation consistently to ensure that they're bought into that, and not just bought into it from an intellectual viewpoint, right? Because anybody can kind of learn the script, right? And we sell this, we sell that. But what you're trying to drive in the same way you drive it with your customers is you're trying to drive a deeper connection into the brand. And you're trying to drive a shift in behavior as well. So in the same way, again, going back to what you do when you market to your customers, you're trying to drive an alignment with the brand. And you also want to shift a behavior in your customer to choose your business or your product or your service. In the case of internal marketing, you're doing the same thing except to your employees. So again, it's not just an intellectual knowledge. It's can you create that emotional, mental, head and heart connection with the brand and with what you offer and with the overall purpose. Now, the objective of that, as I was saying earlier, it's about building the brand and driving growth. And again, that's a difference in my view of what's the demarcation between internal comms and internal marketing is that you're trying to turn your employees into advocates of the brand, right? Externally. So recognizing again that once your employees are engaged, think about it, they're connected, they're feeling it, they're loving the culture, they're loving the organization, they're on board with what we say we stand for, they understand what we offer, the benefits, the features. They now want to be motivated to talk to their own networks of people. They want to be motivated to deliver on that brand promise to the customer, right? So you're talking about a real shift in the behavior of your people to be able to deliver on the brand promise and to advocate and promote and be true ambassadors of the brand to their networks and anybody with whom they encounter. And so that's really what internal marketing is about. It's doing the same thing you do to your customers outside, but focusing on your employees so that they are engaged and empowered to do that, build a brand, drive growth. Yeah.
Wow, excellent. And so would you say that the thing that differentiates internal marketing from internal communication is the nature of the message, like the things that you actually talk about, as well as the fact that it moves from the internal and then provides a bridge to the external. So you start to talk about moving it from internal understanding of the values of the company. It's really value driven. It's what we stand for. It's who we are. It represents the brand. and then we move that not just with internal knowledge, but then we can move that externally and gain benefit from it. Would you say that is part of it?
Right. So the key difference is that advocacy component. We talk about employee advocacy, and you'll see a lot of folks talking about that on LinkedIn. It's employee advocacy. So it's not just, again, as you rightly said, Juma, about sharing with them the mission, the vision, the purpose of products or services internally, but it's about shifting a behavior that encourages them to be advocates externally.
Yes.
Right. Because at the end of the day, people want to do business with people. And so if your people can, again, have that passion, have that drive, and are engaged in a way where they want to talk about the brand and the benefits and all of what we have to offer externally, then you would have won at internal marketing. And that's the difference between it and internal comms.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you for defining that. Let's just say hello really quickly to Chelsea again. She's saying you're stepping on toes. Employers sometimes undervalue the importance of empowering their employees. So there we go, Chelsea, with a big one right there. A swing.
Yeah.
And Rhonda is saying good evening.
Hey,
Hi, Rhonda.
Rhonda.
Good to see you. So what is your definition of a brand then? Can you tell us that, and so we can connect the two?
Wow. You know what? A brand is, in my view, and I mean, everybody probably has a definition. We could probably Google something and get something nice and sexy to say. In my view, a brand is the value that you're going to give to your customer, right?
Right.
And of course, that's manifested in different ways. For some people, it's a tangible product like a bar of soap or a cell phone. In other ways, it's a service. We talk about personal brands as well, of people. Your people want to be building their personal brand, because at the end of the day, a lot of people want to monetize that. They want speaking engagements. They want to be authors of books, and building a personal brand facilitates that. It's really just your brand is the value that you bring. Right. And so if you have whoever it is you're targeting, if they're in a space where they're not quite clear on what your brand stands for, they don't understand your why, your purpose, they don't understand what differentiates you from all the other options that they have to choose from out there, then that's where you're going to have an issue. So in my view, your brand is whatever it is that's of value to the people that you're giving it to or you want to share it with.
That's a good definition. I've never heard somebody taking that angle before, but I could see how it could tie into. So, like, for example, when I define a brand, I always tell people a brand is the thing people don't forget about you. I define it because whenever people leave your presence, they go away with something. You've planted a seed, and whatever fruit that seed produces when they leave, that is exactly what your brand is. So you have to determine what's the quality of that seed, what it exactly is. So you have to be careful how you interface with the person and what you put in their heads, and that applies on both personal level and on a company level. So that's good.
So. I love that.
Yeah, it all connects. All right, so let me ask this then. So every good marketer I know has a specialty. Why did you choose internal marketing as your marketing keystone?
Great question. So again, when I was going back to the whole conversation I was having with myself about what's the content contribution I wanted to make to the marketing community, to the business community, the challenge that I was given at the time by my virtual mentor, Paul C. Brunson, was ask yourself, what are the conversations that not enough marketers are having? Or more specifically, what's the problem that marketers are having, and the solution to that problem is something you find is not being discussed very often, right? So I went on a sleuthing expedition, right? So I had conversations with a lot of different people. Yes, some marketers, but I spoke with CFOs, right? Our beloved CFOs who monitor us with the budget and are reproving value and all this wonderful thing. Hey, it's all good. So spoke to CFOs, spoke to creatives, spoke to people in HR. And there was a conversation I was having with a lady who was an employee in a company. And I really just spoke to her because she's a friend of mine and I just wanted a viewpoint from her. But she said, the issue she was having as an employee in a company was she wasn't quite clear about what the marketing mandate was, and whether the marketing mandate or the marketing strategy that was being executed was really the most beneficial one for the company. Right. And it ran to me because as a marketer, I know as marketers, we get questioned all the time about whether what we're doing, is it working? Is it worth it? Is it adding value? And in speaking to her, I realized, you know what, there is such a misalignment with her understanding of what the marketing strategy or marketing objectives were versus what she saw the benefit to herself as an employee benefiting from the revenue that was coming in. And most specifically, she was passionate about wanting to be a part of the conversation. She said, you know, I'm on the ground with the customers every day. I have so much to share with the marketing conversation about the strategy that we're pursuing, but I don't feel like anybody's engaging us in that conversation. And it really turned on a couple of light bulbs in my head. And I started to do some more research and came across this nomenclature called internal marketing. There have been a handful of books, or less than, that have been written about it, about how it is more companies again need to be engaging their employees in a way that suggests that you're marketing to them so that they're onboarded in what it is the company is doing and can be a part of that advocacy framework to build the brand and grow the business. And I said, hey, why aren't more people having this conversation? If you go on LinkedIn right now, the hashtag internal marketing has less than 100 people following it.
Right.
And probably if you search it, you'll probably see my posts appearing more than anything else. But it's like, why aren't more people talking about this? I'm like, before you have your first customer, you probably had an employee as a company, even one. And why is it that, you know, we're not thinking about what's the impact that our employees are having on how successfully our business does? And especially when we talk about putting the brand out there. And I'm like, hey, this is it. And so that's again where it started: podcast, LinkedIn, etc., etc. So it was about trying to drive a conversation that solved a problem that I didn't think enough marketers and business leaders were passionate about speaking about, really.
Great. And I love that example of this person wanting to be a part of the conversation and desiring to know what's going on and not feeling like they have a place or a window or avenue to get there. And you know, when you look at it, it's like, what do we do with people like that? Well, we have to bring them to the table. We have to have a system to bring them to the table. And I think that's so important. So that's a great story that got you to the place where you are. And so, like, let me present a scenario. So let's just suppose I run a B2C company. Any B2C company. It's been around for, like, say 20 years, and we're doing pretty well, but we're now beginning to transition into more social media as a medium to speak to our customers. And as the head of the marketing department, or maybe even the business owner in that context, why should I care about internal marketing?
Wow, great question. Well, first of all, B2C is a pretty broad definition in the sense that you got B2C product, you know, as I said, like a bar of soap, tube of toothpaste, or you have B2C services like financial services, which is where I work in banking, investments, and so on. And I think depending on what it is you offer, internal marketing and how you're engaging and empowering your employees to be advocates of the brand is going to vary depending, again, on what it is you're offering. So quite easily for me in financial services, right? You're talking about banking and investments. You're targeting customers. Financial education is a huge opportunity to get information out to people. And again, it's great to know that, you know, you're a bank and you're doing pretty well, you're performing and you're making this amount of profit, But when you have a situation where people are not quite sure what banking and investments is all about, how do I achieve my financial goals? They want to hear from the organization, and they also want to hear from the people in the organization, because at the end of the day, it's the financial advisors that they have the relationships with. So for us, to use my example, how we're engaging our team members as part of an internal conversation that, again, empowers them to be out there on social media, out there in the digital space, to have this conversation, to make themselves available, has really been very, very awesome. I always use the example of the fact that, especially if you're like me, you don't have a super massive budget. I'm just keeping it real. When you have your employees being the ones out there engaging people, having the conversations about financial education and how to achieve your financial goals and dreams, it creates a connection in a way that your company brand can't. And I think that's the same for all B2C brands and even B2B. especially B2B. Again, because people want to do business with people. When your people are out there sharing with their networks, they're demonstrating that this is a company that they're proud to work for. They're happy to be a part of the team. And you see that engagement, you see that sense of purpose, and you can reach them and you can have conversations. It's just such a wonderful benefit that you can have that, again, the official company brand probably couldn't even afford to pay for, with the impact that that can have on your business.
So it amplifies the reach of the company while
Absolutely.
minimizing the amount of output. And as not see you're taking advantage of the people who do it, but they gain benefit as well, because the more the company gains, the more they
Yeah.
can have as well. Yeah. So it
Yeah.
brings things back in. Is that a battle you fight often, showing the value of employee advocacy to the employees themselves?
So it depends on the employees, right? So for your sales team, it's easy, right?
Right, right.
They got their sales targets. If you can show them, hey, here's an opportunity to be out there, yes, riding on the coattails of a company brand, it's gonna give them the exposure. It gives them the opportunity to get in touch with new prospects, and it's an easy sell for your sales team, I find. Uh, in the middle and back office, probably a little bit harder. But at the end of the day, I always say to people that when you talk about internal marketing as a way to empower your employees to be advocates, you're also empowering them to build their personal brands.
Yes.
And from where I sit, and this is a controversial point of view, building your personal brand doesn't always have to circulate around what the company does as its line of business.
Yeah.
So, for instance, in my company, we have people who are building their personal brands as a travel blog or as a life coach, and they put content out there under their personal brand as that. But at the end of the day, again, the company brand still benefits, even though we're financial services. We surely ain't a travel agency, but it benefits us because our people being out there, because they're not hiding where they work, they're out there. It's like, oh my God, these people are clearly happy, they're fulfilled, they're living balanced lives. Even as an employer brand, it helps, and it's such a powerful way to reach more people at a time when organic is so abysmal for company brands and company accounts. Your people being out there generating great content and happy to do it and seeing the personal benefit is just absolutely awesome.
I hadn't thought about it from that angle. Like, it's somebody perceiving an employee advocate, somebody who's building their personal brand as happy and fulfilled, and being able to put themselves out on social media while still identifying themselves as a part of your organization. That's a big help, even though they're not specifically talking about the things that the company may be doing or the services
Right.
they may offer. I hadn't seen it that way, but that's an excellent way to think about it, as their
Yeah.
personal life is being fulfilled by the content they put out there as well. So it's benefiting them in other ways that will then in turn now benefit the company, because if you have happy employees, then you have better served customers as well. Yeah.
That's right. And I think my own experience is an example. If you go through my content, you'll never see me post anything slightly promotional about JMMB, where I work. Probably maybe 2 posts, and it had something to do with the company culture or something my team and I did that was fun. I never promote the organizational brand on my own personal accounts, but guess what? I'm still the CMO.
Yes.
And I still represent the brand, and I will and how I represent the brand through value added content, which is largely marketing based. It's like, hey, JMMB looks like a great place to work, and I get the DMs all the time. I'd love to know how I can work there. I'd love to join the marketing team at JMMB.
Yes,
It's been great. So yeah, that it doesn't always have to be just about pounding the brand over somebody's head. It's just about having your people out there just feeling empowered and sharing a message because you've just marketed to them so very well.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's so excellent. Let's take a minute and look at the community and see what they're saying. So Rhonda came in and said good evening, and then Brandon said employee empowerment, awesome.
Yes.
Yes. And Rhonda's saying it's an underserved market. Yes. And let's say hello to Marsha. She jumps in. Good evening, all. Good evening
Hi,
to you,
Marsha.
Marsha. And then Rhonda's, I think she may be asking a question or making a statement. She's saying, coming from aviation, Southwest Airlines built their success from the inside out. Oh, yeah, I've heard this story. They didn't compete with other airlines. They competed with other forms of transportation. Yeah, that's true. I've heard the Southwest story is interesting.
Yeah, and even and having flown Southwest myself, you see the internal marketing at work again based on the delivery of the brand promise that you experience as a customer. When you
Yes.
see happy team members, people who are engaged, um, obviously there's something going on. I mean, obviously never worked there, but as a customer, there had to have been something going on in there that's so powerful in a way that engages a team around a central purpose and mission and vision,
Yeah.
and they have been exuding that to their customers, and it's just fabulous when companies do that very well.
Yeah. It's a risky thing, but it pays off. Huh?
Yeah.
It pays off.
Why do you say it's risky?
Well, when I say it's risky, like for the Southwest example in particular, so because we have had insight into their stuff because of the show, the Southwest Airlines show, and
Hmm.
the only reason I say it's risky is because for them in particular, I don't know for anyone else, they really allow the employees to just decide on how they're going to do some interactions. They have policies and guardrails, but they have these interactions. So there may be times when you may have to pull things back in, and I'm sure you may have
Hmm.
encountered that from time to time, that you have to pull
Hmm.
things back in. Not anything damaging, but you may just this is a little questionable. Let's talk about that a little bit and pull things back in. And so
Yeah.
but the gains I suspect will be much greater than any risk you will put yourself in.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm glad you raised that point because yeah, there is a risk. And I know that actually that risk is part of the biggest reason why companies are so hesitant about internal marketing leading to employee advocacy, because they want to maintain control. They're afraid of, again, empowering their employees to be able to be out there sharing or even producing their own content, because they're afraid of possible backlash on the brand. And it
Mm,
is a real risk. I mean, obviously, you can try and dot your I's and cross your T's with all the social media policies and so on. But I think it's also important for companies to remember that it starts from your purpose, it starts from your why, which is why I'm always big on the point about employee advocacy is one thing, but the internal marketing component is crucial, because in the same way you're deliberate about targeting your customers, you have to be deliberate about targeting your employees. What
mhm,
is your recruiting and hiring and onboarding practices like,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Who
mhm,
are you bringing into your organization as employees, as team members? Are
mhm,
they aligned with the vision, mission, and purpose of your company? Because if those things need to be fixed to make sure you got the right people coming on board, it's going to make it much easier down the road when you want them to be ambassadors and advocates on the outside. So that's
mhm.
my response to that. It is a risky, but I think there is a way to try and mitigate that often enough.
Yeah, yeah, and I also think that starting in the values is very important, and if you start in what the company stands for, the values, how it came about with these things, the foundational things, it makes it
Hmm.
easier for people then now to go out. Of course, you have to do your policies and stuff like that, but it makes it easier for people to start to begin to do the things that the company would consider employee advocacy. It's interesting. It's an interesting process.
Yeah.
Rhonda has another comment. I'll get to comment. Take comment in a minute, Rhonda. But let's talk about how does one start to build internal marketing? Are there any specific steps that we can take?
Wow. So, in no particular order, the first thing you have to do is do, first of all, a culture check. Okay.
Mhm,
As an organization, is your culture aligned with your purpose, your why, your mission, your vision as an organization, right? Because in the same way, you don't want to make external claims about your product or your service that aren't true when
mm,
they're put to the test. You don't want to do any sort of internal marketing campaign when your culture sucks or your culture doesn't line up with what you say your organization stands for. So you got to do that culture check to make sure that it lines up in the best possible way with your organization's purpose, mission, vision. Obviously, your products and services, their value propositions also have to be strong.
mm,
That's a
mm,
marketing
mm,
fundamental, internally or externally. But once you've done that, you also want to do your health check with your employees as well. What's the level of engagement and satisfaction like on the inside?
mm,
Do your employees know the mission, the vision, the purpose? Are they aligned with it? Do they know about the products and services? Do they understand what makes your brand, what makes your solutions, your offerings great? Because if they don't, then again, it shows a lot of internal misalignment that's going to have to be addressed
Mhm.
very, very quickly. And then once you've done that sort of an internal assessment around culture and people and how aligned they are, then the next step is, well, how are we going to engage them? And you engage them primarily through different communication methodologies. Beautifully done internal campaigns are part of that as well. Yes, you can do your email, your Slack, your internal podcasting is taking off as well as another way to engage, but also things like events and different ways to connect and interact, mentorship programs, advisory programs that allow team members to feed off of each other, you know what I mean, and spread the love, so to speak, in
Mm.
building something that really drives a deep level of connection with the brand. And
Mm.
then once that you're satisfied that that hurdle has been crossed, then the next thing is, how are you empowering your team to be advocates and ambassadors of the brand externally,
Yes.
right? So it's educating them, yes, on the solutions, the offerings, but it's also giving them the tools that they need to be able to advocate. So that could be anything from content. Are you giving them the access to content that they can share with their communities online, on social? Are you also considering the fact that if they want to create their own content, what are the tools that you're giving them? I mean, in my organization, we've done things like personal branding workshops, how to build your personal brand on LinkedIn as a workshop
Mm.
for team members to attend for those who want to start the journey alone, courses that are available. And of course, once you've done that, then is there a way to incentivize and keep the behavior going over
Mhm.
time? A
Mm.
lot of companies do things like giveaways, best post of the week, you get an Amazon gift certificate kind of a vibe, because you want to, put a little carrot there in front of the horse. There's
Mm.
nothing wrong with that. Encouragement sweetens labor, I like to say. So just keep the environment going, and really what again you're trying to do is to motivate and inspire and incentivize behavior, and you just need to keep that loop going. Make sure the culture is in check with your employees. Are they engaged, and
Mm.
what are the tools and the opportunities you're providing for them to be advocates externally? Just keep that loop going, and then you've pretty much hit where you need to hit to make sure you have the internal alignment so your external customers feel it too.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And so what I'm hearing is that you're building the brand from the inside out.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
totally.
and that is something, interestingly, that's language I'm familiar with, because that is something that we have talked about in our company. Because a lot of the work that we do never gets seen outside of the company. We do a lot of
Mhm.
content for internal purposes,
Oh, wow.
and we've seen these companies create and there was one time where they created a whole historical, like a timeline, and they did a whole skit, and the employees were the actors, and it was by employees for employees, internal content. Put a lot of money into
Mm,
it. It never saw the light of day outside the company. uh
awesome.
and it was great, and we began to get worried. When are we going to build our portfolio? All this stuff is internal. And we began to get worried. It's like and every company we go to would be like, hey, let's do some internal videos, let's do some internal stuff. And so I'm hearing you saying this. I'm saying, oh, okay, all right, this makes absolute sense, and it connects to
Yeah.
something that we have been helping people with. So that's very interesting, very, very
Awesome.
interesting.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I know you've talked in the past about building a marketing culture, and I guess that's something that is connected to employee advocacy too, um, in any company, and how important that is. Why is it important, and how can small companies or even solopreneurs build a marketing culture?
Wow. Well, I envy the solopreneurs because it's the easiest for them. All right. Me, myself, and I. Um, But even for small companies, quite frankly, any company of any size, I'm always aligned with the popular saying. Forgive me, I forget who said it, but marketing is too important to be left solely up to the marketing department, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And if any company of any size makes the mistake of thinking that, it's really just marketing's problem or marketing's job, building the brand and doing all these great things externally, just marketing's job, then we got a problem. And The first order of business is for everybody to recognize the what's in it for me, the with 'em, right?
Mm.
And that's, I think, where it starts when you talk about building a marketing culture. It's creating that sense of ownership that every single employee or part of the organization, no matter the size, that they recognize the benefit to them of a strong brand. And I spoke earlier about the fact that for some roles it may be easier than others. I get that,
Mm.
but everybody has a role to play. When you think of, again, depending on the company size, anybody in IT, operations, things like that, everybody who buys into the mission, the vision, the purpose of the brand, and the fact that this brand and the success of this brand is what helps us to put food on our tables, then everything we do impacts externally what goes out there. Every widget that comes down the production pipe, if my job is just to put the lid on the bottle, if that lid is not secured tight, the wrong person gets it when it gets to the store. It hits
Mm.
social media, and it's a PR nightmare. So make sure you put that lid on that bottle good and tight before it gets out there. I mean, everybody has a role to play. So it's trying to drive at the heart of the WIFM. What's that what's in it for me message that every team member, employee needs to get to recognize the benefit of a strong brand to them, their livelihoods, and to the overall health of the organization and the wider community.
The with 'em, what's in it for me? I
For
love it.
me.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and you can ask, and sometimes I guess you get people directly asking that question. Well, what's in this for me?
Mhm.
And that's a valid question. People should be able to ask that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, I had a former boss who used to say, people don't work for a company, they work for themselves.
yeah.
Right. So to the extent that the company and or what they're getting from that job with a company continues to serve serve their needs, serve their objectives, then it's all good. So to the extent that the company can continue to prove that, then you're good. So what's in it for me? What's the benefit? Let them see that and the role that they can play in making that happen, and the fact that it's a win, win, and win. Customers win, the company wins, and the individual employees win as well.
I love that. Two-way street, three-way street.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
excellent. All right, okay. So I also have a couple more questions for you. I know we've been talking for a while, but I really want to ask these questions because I know it will be important for the people. So I know one of the reasons you started to get more active on social media and particularly LinkedIn and making this podcast was, of course, when you wanted to give back. You were saying like, "What can I give back?" And that spurred the whole decision to do it. And you mentioned earlier that that Paul Carrick Brunson was instrumental. He was a mentor to you in helping you decide on what to talk about. And so, what role do you think mentorship plays in internal marketing, if any?
Well, within the context of internal marketing, I think what mentorship does is it facilitates a kind of a mutual pouring, one into the other. Um, I think in an organization, and it probably is a double-edged sword of this WIFM conversation that we just had when you talk about building a marketing culture, people not working for a company, they're working for themselves. The tendency is to see a lot of, with due respect, selfishness, happening where, hey, I'm just here because I get to cut a check. What role do I have to play to make the money that needs to happen so I can get my bonus at the end of the month or the end of the year, that kind of
Yeah.
a thing. It tends to have that risk of a spin-off. But from where I sit, if you can have a culture of mentorship, quite frankly, I prefer the word sponsorship more than
Oh,
mentorship, but that's probably another point. But when you talk about mentorship, you're talking about structured time of pouring into someone else, people pouring into people. And it creates, again, a greater sense of mutual investment in this thing that we're creating, that we're building, that we're growing, that we're giving to our
mhm,
clients every day. And I think
mhm.
it has a very powerful role to play within the overall internal marketing framework.
Why sponsorship over mentorship? Is there?
To me, it's the finite difference between the definitions of the word. So, in my view, mentorship versus sponsorship. Sponsorship is more so about enabling and opening doors.
Right.
Mentorship, respectfully, is about guidance and advice and
Huh.
kind of pointing out paths that you could take. But sponsorship, to my mind, is about, okay, can you now pick up the phone and make an introduction to someone who can help me to get where I need to go? Who's going to be in the boardroom advocating for me for that next promotion? That's the
Right.
difference, to my mind, between mentorship and sponsorship. And I think it's easy to be a mentor because, you can go down the road, make a right, and then take a sharp left. It's easy. But not very many people are always willing to invest the time to say, hey, I'm going to write a reference. I'm going to make a
Right.
recommendation. I'm going to write a review on Juma's podcast, to let people know how great it is, instead of just watching every week and getting all the great nuggets. How am I going to be sponsoring Juma to say, hey, this is a great podcast, guys. You got to listen in. Or I find a way to get Juma syndicated. I'm going to just write a
Right.
reference or pick up
Right.
the phone. Yeah. So that, to me, is a difference. And I think we need more sponsorship in
Right.
business, especially in small business, than just mentorship. Respectfully, I'm probably going to step on some toes with what I just said.
Like,
But, it is what it is. Yeah. There's both. As Michelle said, yeah. There's room for both. I just really think more people need to be sponsors than mentors. It takes a little bit more effort, but yeah.
that sounds like it even goes beyond advocacy. It sounds like, because on an advocacy, you could say, do this for this person, but sponsorship is almost like clearing the path, like doing
Yeah.
it on their behalf type of thing.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Or certainly enabling them, obviously, it's not like you're telling somebody, okay, you just have a seat and I'm going to do all the work. It's just, making a phone call, writing a
Right.
recommendation, it can do so much to someone who just needs that opportunity, but doesn't know who to reach out to, or doesn't have the right connections.
All right, great. All right, so let's move on to the other part of the stuff. It's been great talking to you about this. I have another question, but we'll see if we can work that in at the end if we have some time. We're running out of time. Well, let me talk to Rhonda. Rhonda says she spent 30 plus years in aviation, so I've seen what an internal culture can do for employee advocacy. And yeah, I mean, you spend enough time around an industry, you can see things
Yeah.
be made and can see things break as well.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. All of us who have taken an aeroplane knows that.
All of us. And good evening to Michelle. It's what time?
Michelle.
Michelle is in Australia or New Zealand?
Or
Australia, I think.
I thought it was New Zealand, but
New
hey,
Zealand? New
it's the
Zealand?
other side of the world.
No,
So
I apologize. If you sound from
it's, I
Jamaica,
don't
I will
know.
not be offended.
I don't know. I think it's New Zealand, but Michelle let us know. But big up to Michelle for
Great to
tuning
Michelle,
in.
nonetheless. Great to see you, Michelle. Hey to you. All right, so let's jump into another segment of the show I like to call Agree Disagree, where I make some statements and then you will tell me if you agree or disagree. All right, you're saying you
I
wanted to
said
win a
don't win a
prize?
prize, right? I'm kidding.
No,
It's
no
gonna be
prizes.
fun. It's gonna be fun. I've
Your
seen this
prize.
before. So I'm gonna be in the hot seat this time.
All right, your prize will be my eternal gratitude. All right, so let's play Agree Disagree. I'm going to make some statements. It doesn't really reflect if I agree or disagree with these statements. Some of them are going to be very specific to you. All right, let me get those up so we can play this game. So agree, disagree. This is what I ask everyone who comes on the show. Agree, disagree. Passion before skill.
Oh wow. Oh wow. I disagree.
Really?
Yeah, I disagree. At the end of the day, passion is great. Passion is great. But a lot of times, just to make something work and to work well, you're going to need to have or acquire the skill to get it done. Right. So for me, skill is always going to be more important than passion. Yeah.
All right. That question is 50-50. That is a great way to start off because it goes on either side. People pick either one.
Yeah, they
Right?
do. They do.
All right. So agree, disagree. Internal marketing, if done right, can reduce a company's marketing budget.
Yoo-hoo! Agree.
Yeah, that's an easy one. as it
No,
is now.
I tell people all the time, I'm unapologetic, right? So again, going back to my own experience, I work with a financial services company with a strong culture, a strong purpose based on love,
Yes.
which is a whole other story.
Oh, no, no,
Um,
Joan Duncan. We know the story.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody does, I guess, depending on our audience, but our co-founder was clear that all human beings are created equal. We all have inherent greatness, and the way to unleash that greatness is through showing them unconditional love. And
Mhm.
as a financial institution, we, through love, it motivates us to serve our clients, to help them to achieve their financial goals. And that kind of a purpose, that kind of a message that drives our culture because it drives to the heart of who we are, has helped us to build a brand in a way that we couldn't afford to pay for. So when I do my brand awareness studies, my brand attitude studies, it's just amazing that that alone has given us such awesome reach because it touches people in a way that you couldn't even begin to pay for. And
Mhm.
some or I'd like to be confident and say my competitors know that too.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's such a powerful thing to have when you have that internal alignment around a strong purpose, a strong mission. Your people are on board, they're exuding that externally, your customers feel it, they talk about it. It's just fantastic. So you get to save a ton of money on marketing because you have this army of people between your employees and your customers who are just talking about you positively all day long. It's amazing.
Right. It's true. And I've heard you say that multiple times, and it's such like it's the quintessential JMMB soundbite. It's like that's the thing. If everybody would say the exact same thing, it would be that, like the story of Joan Duncan and as a co-founder, and why why love is important and how they use
Mhm.
that for it. It's just I
Yeah.
love that. I love the soundbite. It's like, and it's real too. It's not just saying it.
Yeah,
It's
it's not
actually
a
yeah,
tagline. Yeah, I tell
real.
people we didn't sit in a boardroom and say, "What's our positioning?" Oh, we're going to do love.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
really was based on her vision as an entrepreneur to start this company, and yeah, it's just yeah, powerful, powerful, and amazing.
yeah. Definitely, definitely. That's the only defense. And Ian and I, my business partner, we always say that your brand is the only defensible part of your marketing. Like you could defend that because this is where
Yeah,
it came from. It's very,
yeah,
very clear.
absolutely.
Somebody saying something. Chelsea saying Carry-Ann sounds like such a positive spirit to be around for 8 hours a day. We need more of
Hey,
you in the
thanks,
workplace.
Chelsea. Although at this hour of night, I'm running on fumes, I'll be honest. I tell you, but
Oh,
that's what Coca-Cola is for,
we,
caffeine.
we're gonna get you out of here very soon.
No, man, I love this. I love this. I'm good.
All right, another one. Agree, disagree. Going natural hair was a bigger choice than getting braces.
Oh, wow. Hey, you're going into my business now.
I said some of them will be specific to you.
Yeah, that's true. Going into natural hair was a bigger choice. Agreed. It was absolutely a bigger choice. Just as a teenager, as a young black woman, my goal had always been to relax my hair. As a young black girl, my goal was to straighten my hair because, as black women know, for those of us growing up, especially in my generation, Gen Xers, the older millennials, the standard of beauty was straight hair. And so I didn't like my hair. I wanted to straighten my hair. As soon as my mother gave me permission, I was like 12 or 13. I got that hair straight. And then for many, many years went on. So my sister transitioned to natural. And I'm like, oh no, I'm going to keep this straight hair. I just didn't think I was beautiful if I didn't have straight hair. And then I got two daughters, right, who got my natural hair. And I saw my 3-year-old, she was throwing a tantrum one day while I was trying to cook. She's like, Mommy, I want you to comb my hair down like yours. And I'm like, down? What does that mean? So I'm trying to figure it out, only to realize she wanted her hair to be combed straight down because hers natural went out. And she cried and she threw a fit. And I said, if my 3-year-old so badly wants straight hair at age 3, and remembering my own journey, I'm like, no, This is not going to happen. So I went natural right from there. Not another relaxer touched this head, and I kept going. So it really was for them. They were my motivation, and I have no regrets. Just embracing my natural hair. And again, from a cultural perspective, natural hair has really just taken on new life, and it's wonderful. And yeah, so yeah, it was
Beautiful.
yeah.
Beautiful story. My wife also rocks the natural. I love that.
Woohoo!
I,
Awesome.
I love that. I
Awesome.
love that.
Awesome.
Okay, agree, disagree. Every company should consider starting an employee influencer program.
Agreed, but
Caveat, asterisk somewhere.
yes, so agreed, but because at the end of the day, as I said at the top, everybody wants to jump on the employee advocacy, employee influencer, employee content marketing, employee ambassador, whatever you call it, train,
Right.
because of the obvious benefits of putting the brand out there and generating higher quality leads. They're the stats that tell us that. But if your internal isn't right, if you don't have that internal alignment, you don't got that culture, you don't have that employee buying into your products, your services, your mission, your vision, your purpose, don't even try and put that influencer program. It's going to come off as totally inauthentic,
Yes.
and you just that's going to be worse. So yeah, it's a
So
great thing, but do that internal check first, and if it ain't there, fix it before you do that.
Yes, as you said, inside out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, agree, disagree. Imposter syndrome never leaves. You must quiet its voice.
I agree, simply because I continue to struggle with it every single day. I'll just be honest, there's some days, some weeks where it even impacts the frequency with which I produce content, because it's like, is this good enough? Are people going to appreciate it? People going to like it? I'll be honest, sometimes when you put your heart and soul into content and you barely get one like, or you hear crickets, it's like, I put my heart and soul into this. You mean nobody likes it? Nobody finds it valuable? So it's all about that self-talk. It's all about remembering again your why. Why do you do what you do? And setting those objectives, surrounding yourself with your community of people who appreciate you, and they're pouring into you, you're pouring into them, because hey, let's face it, people need people. It's not about validation, it's just about having that community that supports you and you can support them. And it's just every day just having that positive self-talk and eliminating those things that put the imposter syndrome voice in your head that really shouldn't be there.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in existence who could say, I never doubt myself. I don't think there's anybody in existence. And I've never really met some people don't talk about it at all, but I know they have their private moments away from the social media, the limelight, when they kind of saying, I can't believe I'm doing this. Are people really listening to what I have to say?
Yeah.
And it's such a disconnect between sometimes the numbers that you see and how you feel about yourself. It's like, so it's really an internal decision, internal battle that you have to win,
Yeah, absolutely.
I found that. Even for me, sometimes I put out content, I'm like, am I really allowed to say this?
Yeah.
Do I have enough experience? Do I know enough? And then so I know the feeling as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting. All right. Agree, disagree. When an employee has a positive personal brand transformation, it always positively affects the business.
I agree, but I think there's a but. and I'm only saying that I think there's a but. So obviously there's an agreement, because again, happy, engaged, empowered employees with great personal brands. We see them on LinkedIn and on Twitter every single day. The company brand gets to go along for the ride, and it's awesome. I have seen instances, though, where sometimes there is a conflict of interest between what the employee is trying to build and what the company is doing,
Right.
especially in instances where what the employee is trying to build could be construed as being in conflict with
Right.
what the business, the company's business model is. And in those instances, you're going to have the conversation and maybe between the two of you come to some kind of agreement or make a tough decision. But generally, don't silence your employees. The company brand gets to go along for the ride. It's fantastic.
Yes. Those are things you have to look at carefully.
Hmm.
Yeah. And lastly, the question that we ask everyone, and up till a couple of weeks ago, everyone answered the same way. Agree, disagree. On social media, you grow more from doing rather than consuming.
Well, I find I grow more from consuming. I don't know. Did I go with the majority on that one or what?
No, you're the first person to outright go in the opposite direction.
Oh dear. I'm just going to be straight. I mean, there's just so many great things, so many great content pieces that have just really helped to reshape my perspective, helped to give me new ideas, helped me to engage with such wonderful people. I love your content. I reach out to you, we form a connection, we hop on a Zoom call with a virtual coffee. I mean, it's yeah. I need to do more of the other thing because sometimes I think I get in the trap of consuming more than creating, but I'm just, honestly, consuming content from awesome creators has really just filled me up in a way that I could have never imagined maybe 5 years ago.
Excellent. And this has been Agree, Disagree with Kerry-Ann Stimpson. Thank you so much, Kerry-Ann, for playing along. Tell the people where they can find you online.
No problem. Well, I'm on LinkedIn in the main, Kerry-Ann Stimpson. Yep, there's the URL. So feel free to reach out. I am the host of the Internal Marketing Podcast, which if you go on my profile, you'll catch up with it. It also has a small LinkedIn page as well. But if you Google the Internal Marketing Podcast, you'll find it. It has a website, and also it can be found anywhere podcasts are. So drop in, take a listen, give me some feedback, and engage in the conversation. I'm happy to speak to anyone further on the topic. I love it.
I wonder why you use Simplecast for well, that's a conversation we can have offline, I guess, sometime. For your internal marketing podcast. That's great. And of course, you're on Twitter as well.
Yes, I am. Not as active, admittedly. More so recently, not as active. But I'm there too. So drop me a DM if you don't hear from me in a while. And the Internal Marketing Podcast has a Twitter account as well. So
Excellent. So thank you so much, Kerry-Ann, for coming here and sharing with us about how internal marketing can be used to build a brand. It's been a lovely conversation. Do you have any last things to say to the people before we say goodnight?
Just thank you for joining. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. And let's keep pushing this message of employee engagement and empowerment through internal marketing to build brands and drive growth. It's a much needed conversation.
Beautiful. Thank you for coming, and thank you to the Useful Content community for joining us this week. And we'll see you next time on the Useful Content Creation Show. Bye, everybody.